So a couple of weeks back, I did a review video on the Landmine attachment, a simple training implement that you can get your hands on to add to your home gym setup that presents an incredible degree of versatility and a multitude of benefits when it comes to its contribution to your training. Now in today's video, what I'd like to do is go over some of my personal favorite pressing variations that you can incorporate with the Landmine attachment. Now with the exercises presented in this video, in consideration of my personal preferences from a coaching standpoint, they are in no particular order. No exercise listed here is better than any of the others. They're all different and they all provide different benefits relative to their execution. Now understanding as much, I will touch briefly on those benefits or the primary benefits that I perceive each variation to provide, simply because it does make a difference when it comes to how I may program those exercises for a client or for myself. First on the list is a Landmine push press, executed with control. This is the key here. A lot of people get over aggressive with their pushes when they start utilizing the power from their legs to get the weight up and overhead, whether it's on a barbell press or a Landmine variation. And because of that, their form is inconsistent and they can't really manage the progressive nature of the exercise. So, how I execute it is as follows. Assuming I'm pressing with my right arm, left foot is placed in front, right foot is in the rear on the ball of the toe. Tight grip on the end of the sleeve with the right hand, squeezing as tight as I can to allow for maximal tension through the upper limb, which will translate into greater stability in the shoulder. From this position, I'm keeping the elbow tight to the side, and I'm going to make sure as I press that a straight line is kept in that pressing arm. I'm not allowing that elbow to flare out to the side as I press. I'm going to allow for a slight bend in the knees, and I'm going to explode up to a full extension in the arms, controlling back down to the starting position, reset, slight bend, explode up to a full extension in the elbow. Controlling down, back just above shoulder height, slight bend in the knees, explode up. Just like so. Now I personally like incorporating this exercise because we're allowing for a little bit of extra assistance from the lower body, a little bit of momentum through that explosive start. We can overload this press, apply a little bit more stress than we might normally be able to with a strict variation, which will allow us to then recover from that increased stress, assuming it's managed relative to our previous performance on the same variation. And then we can adapt from that and become a little bit stronger, consequently overloading both the shoulders and triceps simultaneously. This would definitely be a variation that would take the place of a primary, more measurable barbell press in a programming structure. Next on the list is going to be a half kneeling Landmine shoulder press. Now this is not something that looks very different in terms of execution other than the starting stance, but it presents a different type of benefit. So what I'm going to do is, assuming I'm pressing with the right side again, which I will be in a moment, I'm going to have my left foot in front and my right leg is positioned on the knee. Now with this same staggered stance, I'm now eliminating the ability for my legs to assist with the movement. I'm forcing a much greater degree of stress onto the shoulders, and I'm also going to end up as a byproduct of being unable to use my legs for assistance in that push press style as we did in the previous variation. I'm going to be executing a much stricter press. Now, with this position, we want an approximate 90-degree bend in the lead leg, and we want that knee to be directly underneath the hips. Now from here, same idea, keeping that elbow tight to the torso. We're going to squeeze the end of the barbell sleeve as tight as we possibly can. Again, making sure we have maximal tension through the upper limb, translating into that stability through the shoulder as we do these presses. From here, I'm going to keep an upright torso. I'm going to press up to a full extension in the elbow, keeping that elbow in as straight of a line as possible, so as it comes down, it hugs tight to the side. Again, not allowing it to flare out. Pressing up to a full extension and controlling down. Up to a full extension and controlling down. Personally, I like to incorporate this variation as more of a hypertrophy exercise. So it's going to go maybe as a secondary movement in a higher rep range, say 8 to 12, 12 to 15, or even 15 to 20 repetitions. Because of the strict form it's executed with, it really does a great job of contributing to the building of muscle, and I prefer the push press variation when it comes to prioritizing strength development. It doesn't mean I won't change either one of them out and put them in a different position, but preference-wise, that's likely where they're going to end up. So the next variation is unique. I don't see it done very often. I have seen it done on the very rare occasion. I like to incorporate this as a secondary pressing variation for chest. It never, in my own programming preferences, makes the cut as a primary lift, simply because there's so many other better chest primary exercises, in my opinion. Basically anything else you can do through a much greater range of motion will allow for much greater loading of weight, applying much greater degrees of stress from which you can recover from. But this is a great variation to incorporate that targets the chest, shoulders, and triceps respectively from a different angle, and is incredibly effective when executed in a higher rep range. So you will be in a seated position. I suggest getting the barbell ready before you sit down. It's a little bit safer. Now, what you're going to do is grab the sleeve of the barbell with interlocked fingers, or you can just put them one on top of the other, making sure the heel of your palm is supporting the barbell. You could put your thumbs around underneath the bottom. It's usually a little bit awkward, though I like to put them at the end of the sleeve. Feet are planted firmly into the ground, making sure you're actually sitting on the bench so you don't fall. From here, we're going to press up to a full extension in the arms, and then right back down to the chest. As you can imagine, this variation really prioritizes the chest, shoulders, and triceps from this position. Oftentimes, this is a variation that will end up in either the 12 to 15 or the 15 to 20 rep range. Now we're talking floor press variations. And floor press variations are often neglected when considering the landmine attachment, but they're very effective. Now this one in particular, because of the way I'm going to position myself, I find very much effective at targeting the triceps. Okay? So to set up properly, this can be a little bit awkward because you have to get the landmine up safely. So first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to position myself so that the end of the sleeve is in about alignment with my elbow, because that is going to be my starting press position. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to grab the barbell with both hands, and I'm going to use my opposite hand to help me lift the barbell up into position. From here, I'm gripping the end of the sleeve as tight as I possibly can, and I'm keeping that elbow relatively close to my torso. I don't want it flaring very far out to the side. Now from here, I'm going to press straight up to a full extension in the arm, control back to the floor, and press. Making sure that elbow stays tight to the sides. And because of the range of motion, as well as the angle that you're pressing from, you'll find that it applies a great degree of stress to the back of the arms. And what I really like about this pressing variation as a secondary exercise for the triceps, we use both hands to lower the weight down as well. I like to roll with the landmine itself. Now the main benefit I see as well, not just the angle itself and how it hammers the back of the arms, but long-term progressions, you can add such small fractional increases in load, making it much more easier to manage the volume intensity of the accessory lift. Now this floor press variation, you'll notice I'm perpendicular to the bar, which I was not with the last variation. In the last variation, tend to prioritize more of the triceps, and I find this particular variation prioritizes more of the pec as well as the shoulders. Now I'm making sure that my elbow is positioned almost underneath my wrist, and it's slightly off, give or take an inch or two. From here, I'm squeezing the end of the sleeve as tight as I possibly can. I'm going to either extend both legs out or position them as such. And from here, I'm going to press up to a full extension in the elbow. And the fun part about this is because of the landmine attachment and how it functions, you have to make sure that that weight doesn't create a lever arm out to the side at all. Controlling down, contact with the floor, pressing up through a full extension. Controlling down, contact with the floor, and up through a full extension. As soon as you're done, make sure you use both arms to lower the weight down to the ground. Both floor press variations, from my perspective, should be considered accessory lifts. I would never incorporate either of these in a low rep range with heavy loads, nor would I put them at the front end of a program. They would be attacking specific weak points that an individual may have, and they would be considered an accessory lift with the intent to develop more muscle in a lagging area. Now, don't get me wrong, that was certainly not an exhaustive list of pressing exercises that you can incorporate with a landmine, but it certainly shows you some of the versatility that a landmine attachment can offer you in consideration of exercise selection. But even though those variations I rarely see done by trainees and coaches alike in the gym, they do offer some incredible benefits that will contribute in an effectively designed program to performance progress over time, as well as the ability to build muscle. If you found this to be an informative video, if it inspired you to try a new exercise or consider getting a landmine attachment yourself, please take a moment, follow or subscribe depending on what social media platform you might be seeing this video on. And as per usual, if you happen to have any specific questions, send them my way and I'll make sure to cover them in an upcoming piece of content.